His name is not a name many folks are going to know unless you were one of the thousands that actually went to a game and saw him pitch, like my dad and his dad did. They saw him a few times and got a couple of his autographs. This will be the first player profile that I've done where the player didn't have a card that I know of. Other than some big league spring training games, he never played an MLB game, but he was an all-star in the Negro leagues. So I figured this would be a good time to rattle off some great baseball team names that this player was on. He was born in 1931, Nashville, Tennessee, and was 47 when he passed away. Who is this player? To find out, you have to look into the Negro League archives, because online there isn't much info about Kelton Searcy, nickname Kelly. Pitcher, Negro League debut, late 40s, 1950, not sure, because when the Negro Leagues were dying, the record keeping was really poor. Kelly's stats start in 1954, playing in the Carolina League, and soon found himself hooked up with the brand new franchise called the Baltimore Orioles, who the season before were the St. Louis Browns. Kelly Searcy pitched in 11 seasons of pro ball, 5 of those in the Negro League, and in 1950 he pitched on 4 NLB clubs: the Memphis Red Sox, the Birmingham Black Barons, the Baltimore Elite Giants, and his hometown team, the Nashville Stars. Kelly's pitching with the Stars was good enough to get him an all-star nod, and he would be the winning pitcher in the 1951 Negro League East-West All-Star Game, held every year at Comiskey Park in Chicago, usually. For some reason, Kelly didn't pitch in 1952 for the Black Barons, but he would for parts of 1953, 1954, and 55. But at the end of the 55, he pitched for Mexico City Red Devils in the Mexico League. Kelly Searcy would get a chance to show off his stuff when he was invited to the Baltimore Orioles 1956 spring training camp. The only reason I know this is because he is listed on the scorecard along with Jim Pisoni. You can see that scorecard my dad picked up on my Harry Burkeen show. That was close to the big show that Kelly would get. He would end up pitching for a few of the Orioles affiliates that season, including the Lubbock Lubbers, the Texas City Texans, the San Antonio Missions, and a brand new club way up north called the Vancouver Mounties, formerly the Oakland Oaks. That was the other time my dad got Kelly's autograph on a 1956 seal scorebook. That was also signed by Jim Pisoni when the Mounties came to San Francisco for a visit. Come 1957, Kelly would split his time with 3 teams: the Nuevo Laredo Owls of the Mexican League, the Phoenix Stars, and the Knoxville Smokies of the Sally League, and would stay with the Smokies to the start of 1958, but would be traded to the Monterey Sultans. That's Monterey with 2 E's, 2 R's, and no A. You know, Monterey, Mexico, not Monterey, California. He'd stay in Mexico to wrap up his pitching career in 1959 and had an overall minor league record of 18-29. As for Kevin's NLB stats, like I said earlier, record keeping for a league that was going out of business is not very good. My dad has quite a few Negro League player autographs that I'm finding. I'm trying to keep these shows I put out in groups by teams so you become familiar with the players and teams as I work my way through my dad's collection. Hopefully this will make it easier, more fun and interesting when you start to know these players that I'm talking about, because many of these guys are linked in one way or another. Right now, I'm really getting into the Pacific Coast League, because these teams and players are more close to home. Players that my dad and his dad watched together and actually talked to these players. I was supposed to show you guys a bunch of the Yankees autographs, but got sidetracked with the St. Louis Browns, which led me to start working on the 1956 LA Angels. You know how it goes. Sidetracked. That's me, staying with the getting to know me theme. Me, as a 5-year-old in 1969, I had my own record player and record collection. I had a rack of 45s, which are not easy for a little kid to play because you had to put that little plastic disc in the middle so you could play it. Some of you know what I'm talking about. Sit there on the floor and listen to my Beatles and Creedence Clearwater records. I love the world of TV and movies from that period, but my favorite things to watch were from the 30s and 40s because even as a little kid, I was an old soul. Didn't like to play with the little kids because they did little kids stuff. When it came to sports, my favorite sport players were, for football, Gale Sayers, for baseball, Willie Mays, for basketball, Walt Clyde Frazier, and my favorite boxer was Smokin' Joe Frazier. What do these sports stars have in common? I'll tell you, and it starts with the letter B. Yep, you guessed it, best. They were all the best at what they did. Another thing in common they also had that starts with a B, they were all big-time trendsetters in the world of fashion. All kidding aside, that's what's great about sports. As a kid, you don't see your heroes through the lens of color. You see them for what they do and how they act on and off the field, like it should be. Let me know if you can think of anything else that they have in common that starts with the letter B. If you were going to say brave Americans because of their military service, that would be a good guess, especially if you watch my show and know how I always make mention of those that made the sacrifice by serving for their country. I believe all these guys were brave Americans, but only Willie Mays served. So guess again.